When clarity comes, excuses stop working. Words lose their power. Manipulation becomes transparent. You start realizing that some people didn't misunderstand you. They understood you clearly, but used that understanding for their advantage. You begin to see that some situations didn't fall apart. They were never built on truth to begin with. You stop blaming yourself for things you were never at fault for. You stop carrying responsibilities that were never yours to hold. And suddenly life becomes lighter, not because it got easier, but because you stopped carrying dead weight disguised as love, loyalty, or obligation. Your clarity teaches you to trust what doesn't sit right. That uncomfortable feeling you used to ignore becomes the compass guiding you toward truth. You start recognizing that energy never lies, even when words do. A forced smile, a sudden silence, a shift in tone, a pattern in behavior, you see it all. You read the room before you enter it. You see the truth before it's spoken. And this level of sensitivity makes people nervous, especially those who once relied on your blindness. They feel exposed in your presence because they know they can no longer hide behind their masks. They know you see what they hoped you'd never notice. Some will call you different. Some will say you've changed. Some will pretend to be confused by your boundaries, but deep down, they understand exactly what happened. They know your eyes are open now. They know the wool they once pulled over you doesn't fit anymore. They know their rehearsed excuses don't land the same. They feel the distance you created, and they panic, not because you walked away, but because you finally walked in truth. They panic because your clarity has revealed who they really are, and now they must face themselves without the comfort of your old self. Clarity brings strength. It gives you the courage to walk away from noise and move toward peace. It gives you the confidence to say no without guilt, enough without explanation, and goodbye without fear. It teaches you that not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone deserves your loyalty, your love, or your time. And when you start valuing yourself on that level, the insecure ones panic the most. They realize they can no longer feed off your kindness. They can no longer drain your energy. They can no longer manipulate your emotions. You've become too aware, too grounded, too centered in who you are. What people don't understand is that clarity is not arrogance, it's alignment. It's not pride, it's self-respect. It's not coldness, it's emotional intelligence. You're not distancing yourself because you're better than anyone. You're distancing yourself because you finally see what brings you peace and what brings you pain. You finally see what supports your growth and what stunts it. You finally see who builds you up and who breaks you down. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. You can't pretend you don't know. You can't go back to living in the dark just to make others comfortable. Your clarity also reveals your purpose. You start realizing that every setback was a lesson, every betrayal was a warning, every disappointment was a redirection. You understand that nothing was random, everything was preparing your vision. And now that you see clearly, you walk with a different kind of strength. You walk with wisdom. You walk with intention. You walk with authority. This is why people react differently to you. They sense the shift, they sense the power, they sense the maturity, they sense the awakening in your spirit. Remember this: clarity is a gift, but it is also a responsibility. When you see the truth, you must honor it. When you recognize toxic patterns, you must break them. When you discern someone's hidden motives, you must protect your energy. Your clarity is not there to make you paranoid, it's there to make you powerful. It's there to guide you, to lift you, to protect you, and to restore you. It's there to help you build a life rooted in truth, not illusions. So stand firm in your clarity. Don't shrink it, don't hide it, don't apologize for it. The right people will respect it, The wrong people will fear it. But you must embrace it, because your clarity is the doorway to your destiny. And the moment you step through it, the world around you will shift in ways you never imagined. That is the power of seeing what others can't. That is the power of your awakened vision. That is the power of your third eye in high definition. Your intuition recognizes energy before actions. There is a rare power in a person who can sense the truth before the truth is spoken. A power in someone whose intuition moves faster than words, faster than explanations, faster than excuses. When your third eye is awake, when your spirit is tuned to a higher frequency, you don't wait for people to show you who they are, you feel it. You sense it in their energy long before their actions catch up. And this ability, this spiritual radar, makes certain people deeply uncomfortable because they can't hide what you can already feel. They can't cover what your intuition has already exposed. You see, actions take time, but energy is immediate. A person can dress their words, rehearse their lines, twist their stories, and disguise their intentions, but their energy, that doesn't lie. It slips out in their tone, in their silence, in their posture, in the way the atmosphere shifts when they enter the room. Your intuition registers all of it. You feel when someone's smile doesn't match their spirit. You can tell when someone's compliment feels heavy instead of light. You notice when someone's presence brings peace or drains it. And you don't need a reason, you don't need proof, you simply know. For a long time, you might have ignored these feelings, you doubted them, you second-guessed yourself. You let people talk you out of your truth because you wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. You wanted to believe the best in them, you wanted to trust their words instead of your instincts. And every time you silenced that inner voice, life showed you why you shouldn't have. That inner voice wasn't paranoia, it was protection. It wasn't fear, it was foresight. It wasn't insecurity, it was intelligence. Your intuition is your soul's first language. It speaks in nudges, warnings, impressions, and inner knowing. And when you start honoring that voice, your entire life transforms. Because suddenly, you're no longer walking into traps you once ignored. You're no longer entertaining people who drain your spirit. You're no longer allowing access to those who come disguised as friends but carry the intentions of enemies. You start seeing what's coming before it arrives. You sense when something isn't aligned. You recognize when someone's presence is more harmful than helpful. People feel that. They feel when someone has a spiritual advantage. They feel when you're not easily fooled. They feel when you're not emotionally blind. And that's when the panic sets in. Because there are individuals who depend on secrecy, confusion, and manipulation. But what they didn't expect was your intuition leveling up. They didn't expect you to read them without them speaking. They didn't expect you to detach before they could deceive. They didn't expect you to walk away without needing an argument, a reason, or an explanation. Your intuition gave you the clarity, and you followed it without hesitation. Your intuition doesn't just detect danger, it also recognizes authenticity. It knows who carries pure intentions. It knows who loves without agenda. It knows who supports without envy. It knows who shows up without needing applause. And when you encounter people with genuine hearts, your intuition gives you peace. You feel safe. You feel understood. You feel spiritually recognized. Because intuition doesn't only warn you about the wrong people, it aligns you with the right ones. When your third eye is open, you don't just sense threats, you sense blessings. You sense opportunity. You sense alignment. This sensitivity is not a weakness. It is a divine gift, a built-in navigation system guiding you through the complexities of life. But remember this, a gift unprotected becomes a target. People may try to shame you for following your intuition. They'll say you're overreacting, imagining things, or too sensitive. But what they're really saying is this: your intuition makes them uncomfortable because deep down they know you can perceive what they try to conceal. You can feel the truth beneath their words. You can sense the lies hiding between their sentences. Your intuition sees through intentions, not just actions. You don't need someone to betray you to know they're capable of it. You don't need someone to hurt you to understand their spirit is not aligned with yours. You don't need someone to exit your life in chaos for you to recognize they were sent as a lesson, not a blessing. This is what scares people. They realize you don't need to be convinced, persuaded, or warned. You already know. And here's the beautiful part. The more you honor your intuition, the louder it speaks. The more you trust it, the more precise it becomes. You start experiencing life on a higher level, where you're not reacting to problems, you're preventing them. You're not questioning yourself, you're trusting yourself. You're not walking blindly, you're moving with spiritual precision. What others see as luck is actually your discernment. What they see as mystery is simply your inner vision. What they see as quiet confidence is your spirit guiding you with clarity and strength. Your intuition is not just a feeling, it's a weapon, a shield, a guide, a teacher. It will reveal the truth long before reality exposes it. It will show you who belongs in your life and who is passing through. It will prevent you from settling for less than your worth. It will protect you from people who don't deserve your heart, your time, or your presence. And when people start panicking because you recognize their energy before their actions, take that as confirmation. Confirmation that you've risen. Confirmation that your third eye is open. Confirmation that your spiritual awareness is operating at a higher level than ever before. So walk with confidence. You don't need to explain how you know. Your spirit knows. You don't need to justify your decisions. Your intuition led you. You don't need to second guess the energy you feel. Your sensitivity is a blessing, not a burden. Trust it, honor it, follow it. Because your intuition will never misguide you. It is your divine advantage. And when you move through life with that kind of inner clarity, there is nothing and no one you cannot rise above. Your growth breaks their illusion of control. There comes a moment in your journey when you evolve so much, so deeply, and so powerfully that the people who once believed they had influence over you suddenly lose their grip. Not because you confronted them, not because you argued with them, not because you exposed them, but because growth elevates you to a level where their old tactics, old manipulations, and old expectations simply cannot reach. Your growth breaks the illusion of control they once held, and nothing terrifies insecure, manipulative, or dependent people more than the realization that you no longer move according to their script. For years, some individuals relied on your lack of self-awareness. They counted on your doubt. They depended on your fear of losing them. They fed on your desire to please. They used your loyalty, your softness, your patience, and your forgiveness as tools to keep you in a predictable place. But what they underestimated was your capacity to evolve. They didn't anticipate that one day you would wake up, reclaim your power, and see them for who they truly are. Not through emotion, but through wisdom. And when you grow like that, when you rise into your own strength, the illusion that they ever had control over you shatters instantly. Growth is not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't argue. It doesn't seek validation. True growth happens in silence, inside your mind, your spirit, and your heart. It begins when you realize you no longer need permission to live freely. It begins when you recognize patterns and break them instead of repeating them. It begins when you stop allowing the same people to wound you in the same ways. It begins when you finally understand that your peace matters more than their approval. That's when you start changing. That's when you start rising. That's when you start slipping out of the emotional traps that once kept you stuck. The very moment you choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, boundaries over guilt, and self-respect over attachment, you become unpredictable to those who controlled you through your insecurities. They can't guilt you anymore. They can't manipulate your emotions. They can't trigger the old version of you. They can't use your kindness against you. They can't weaponize your loyalty because you've outgrown the level where their control existed, and that terrifies them. Not because you hurt them, but because they can no longer use you to soothe themselves. Your growth forces people to face themselves. The ones who depended on you being broken now have to confront their own flaws. The ones who relied on you being quiet now have to deal with your voice. The ones who expected you to cling now have to watch you walk away. The ones who used your empathy now have to live with the consequences of their actions. Growth removes you from the role they assigned you, and when you stop playing that part, their whole narrative collapses. That collapse creates panic, not because you're gone, but because your presence was their hiding place. And here's the truth. Some people never wanted you to heal. They wanted you functional enough to serve them, but wounded enough to be controlled. They wanted you humble enough to need them, but not confident enough to outgrow them. They wanted you loyal enough to stay, but not wise enough to question. They loved you as long as you remained smaller than your potential. But the moment your spirit expanded, the moment your discernment sharpened, the moment your confidence returned, they couldn't handle the upgraded version of you. Because your growth exposed what your pain used to hide. The reason they panic is simple. They never prepared for your evolution. They prepared for your dependence. They expected you to remain predictable. They expected you to stay in the same emotional place where they left you. They counted on you not seeing your own strength. But strength has a way of resurfacing. Power has a way of reawakening. Identity has a way of returning, and once it does, you become someone they no longer recognize. Because the new you doesn't play by the rules the old you agreed to. Growth gives you the courage to create distance, not out of anger, but out of alignment. You stop trying to fix people who don't want to grow. You stop trying to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to prove your worth to people who benefit from pretending not to see it. You stop giving access to people who only show up when they need something. You stop apologizing for protecting your peace. Your boundaries become firmer, your standards become higher, and your spirit becomes stronger. This is the moment the illusion of control completely breaks. When they no longer know how to reach you emotionally, they panic. When they no longer know how to manipulate you, they panic. When their usual patterns stop working, they panic. When they realize you no longer seek their approval, their validation, or their permission, they panic. Why? Because they depended on your past. They depended on your wounds. They depended on your fear of being alone. But your growth disconnected you from all of that. Your growth made you whole. And whole people are uncontrollable. Growth also brings clarity about your purpose. You begin to understand why you had to go through certain things. You understand why certain people were removed from your life. You understand why certain relationships fell apart. You understand why certain environments no longer fit. You realize that everything that broke you actually built you. Everything that hurt you expanded your vision. Everything that disappointed you redirected your steps. Your growth wasn't accidental, it was intentional. And now that you've stepped into this new level, you carry yourself differently. You choose differently. You move differently. People may say you've changed, and they're right, you have. You weren't meant to stay at the level where they could control you. You weren't meant to remain in relationships that drained you. You weren't meant to hold on to people who didn't value you. You weren't meant to live small just to keep others comfortable. You were meant to rise, evolve, strengthen, and become everything life tried to convince you you couldn't be. And now that you've become that person, their panic is simply a reflection of your transformation. So, stand in your growth with confidence. Don't shrink to fit the old version of yourself. Don't step back into the shadows to make others feel safe. Don't dim your evolution to protect someone's ego. You worked too hard, healed too deeply, and grew too much to apologize for who you've become. Their illusion of control is broken, and that is your liberation. Your growth is not only your power, it is your protection. And anyone who can't handle the new you was never meant to walk with you into your next season. Keep growing, keep rising, keep elevating. You are unstoppable now. You see long-term consequences while others chase short-term pleasure. There is a rare strength in the person who doesn't move by impulse, who doesn't chase the thrill of the moment, who doesn't sacrifice their future for temporary satisfaction. When you begin seeing life through a higher lens, when your third eye is tuned into long-term vision instead of short-term distraction, you instantly separate yourself from the crowd. Not because you're better than anyone, but because you're walking with purpose in a world obsessed with pleasure. Most people are driven by what feels good now, but you're driven by what will matter later. And that alone intimidates those who expect you to think small, move fast, and settle easily. When your vision stretches years ahead, you stop wasting time on situations that won't matter next month. You stop entertaining people who don't value your growth. You stop participating in cycles that repeat the same pain over and over again. You stop rushing into spaces that drain your spirit. Your awareness teaches you that every choice you make is an investment, either in your future or in your destruction. And because of that clarity, you move differently. Your steps become intentional. Your decisions become strategic. Your standards become non-negotiable. And this shift in your mindset makes those stuck in short-term thinking panic. Because your discipline exposes their chaos. Your patience exposes their recklessness. Your direction exposes their lack of one. Short-term thinkers don't understand long-term builders. They don't understand why you walk away from drama instead of reacting. They don't understand why you choose solitude over bad company. They don't understand why you say no to opportunities that glitter but don't grow you. They don't understand why you won't rush into relationships, commitments, or partnerships that don't align with your spirit. They don't understand why you protect your energy so fiercely. To them, you seem too serious, too focused, too selective. But in reality, you are simply aware of the consequences they're too distracted to see. You've learned that short-term pleasure often carries long-term pain, and long-term vision often requires short-term sacrifice. People who don't think beyond today will spend their lives repeating the same cycles. They'll chase excitement and call it happiness. They'll chase attention and call it love. They'll chase comfort and call it stability. But you've outgrown that level. Your clarity has revealed the truth. What feels good now often leaves you empty later. What looks good now can break you later. What distracts you now can derail your destiny later. And once you understand that, you can never go back to living blindly. Your long-term vision also means you weigh the cost of your connections. You evaluate the environments you enter. You question the intentions of those who approach you. You pay attention to actions instead of words. You notice patterns instead of promises. You recognize that every person in your life influences your direction. Some push you forward, some pull you backward, and some keep you stuck. And because you see the long-term consequences, you no longer allow everyone access to your future. You choose people who align with where you're going, not who you used to be. This kind of clarity makes people uncomfortable, especially those who once counted on your softness. Your refusal to entertain temporary pleasure exposes anyone who only wanted temporary access to you. Your refusal to repeat old cycles exposes anyone who relied on your predictability. Your refusal to move without thinking exposes anyone who expected you to follow blindly. When you start choosing purpose over impulse, people realize they cannot distract you anymore, and that's when they panic. Because they knew how to influence the old you, but they have no power over the evolved you. You also begin to understand timing. You know when to act, when to pause, when to observe, and when to release. You start recognizing that not every door deserves to be opened, not every opportunity deserves to be accepted, not every feeling deserves to be followed, and not every person deserves to be trusted. Your patience becomes your strength, your discipline becomes your protection, your restraint becomes your power. And those who operate on impulse cannot understand someone who doesn't rush, doesn't chase, doesn't settle. They mistake your slowness for hesitation, when in truth, it is wisdom. Long-term vision also means you understand delayed gratification. You know that the best results take time. The strongest foundations take time. The most meaningful relationships take time. The most fulfilling dreams take time. This patience sets you apart. While others jump from one thing to another, searching for the next high, the next distraction, the next validation, you stay committed to what matters. You build, you grow, you prepare, you evolve. And each step you take pushes you further away from the people who live for the moment rather than for the future. Your mindset intimidates those who fear responsibility. It exposes those who fear commitment. It threatens those who rely on impulsive decisions to feel alive. People who refuse to grow will always be uncomfortable around someone who thinks ahead. Because your wisdom makes their excuses look weak, your discipline makes their lack of self-control obvious. Your patience makes their desperation visible. Your focus makes their chaos undeniable. And instead of evolving with you, many will panic and blame you for making them feel what they refuse to confront. But you must understand this. Your long-term vision is not here to make others comfortable. It's here to guide you toward a future built on truth, stability, peace, and purpose. It's here to protect you from the traps you once walked into blindly. It's here to elevate you to heights you once doubted you'd reach. It's here to ensure you don't waste your life on temporary pleasures that leave permanent scars. The more you honor your long-term vision, the more doors open that were never available at the level of short-term thinking. Opportunities find you, blessings align with you, peace follows you, growth strengthens you. You begin attracting people who think like you, move like you, and dream like you. You start stepping into spaces designed for a more mature, more disciplined, more spiritually aware version of yourself. Because long-term vision doesn't just change your path, it changes your identity. So walk boldly with your long-term clarity. Don't apologize for being focused. Don't apologize for moving differently. Don't apologize for rejecting temporary excitement to build lasting greatness. Your third eye sees what others can't. Your spirit recognizes where you're heading. Your wisdom understands what's at stake. And your discipline protects your destiny. While others chase the moment, you are building a lifetime. And that is why they panic. Not because you're better, but because you're becoming exactly who you were always meant to be. Your spiritual sensitivity reveals who belongs in your life and who doesn't. There comes a point in your journey when your spirit becomes so sharp, so sensitive, so awakened, that you can no longer tolerate what you once entertained. Your third eye opens, your discernment deepens, your intuition strengthens, and suddenly, the people who once blended into your life begin to stand out. Their intentions become clearer. Their loyalty becomes visible. Their energy becomes obvious. You start recognizing who was sent to elevate you and who was sent to distract you, who was meant to stay and who was meant to be released. And that spiritual sensitivity, this divine clarity, becomes the filter through which you decide. When you reach this level of awareness, you no longer judge people by their words, you judge them by their vibration, by how they make your spirit feel, by the peace or the chaos that follows their presence. You can sense when someone is genuine without them proving it. You can sense when someone is dangerous without them showing it. You can sense when someone's purpose in your life has expired without them saying a word. And because your spirit recognizes this before your mind can explain it, you start moving differently. You start pulling away quietly. You start saying less and observing more. You start letting your intuition speak louder than your emotions. Your spiritual sensitivity becomes your shield. You no longer fall for illusions, performances, or sweet words that lack sincerity. You can feel when someone is inconsistent. You can feel when someone's energy shifts. You can feel when someone's presence drains you instead of pouring into you. You can feel when someone is envious behind their smile. You can feel when someone is competing in secret. You can feel when someone is pretending to support you while hoping quietly for your downfall. And when you sense it, you don't ignore it anymore. You honor it. Because your spirit has earned the right to be trusted. For a long time, you may have ignored the signs. You gave people chances they didn't deserve. You allowed people to stay in your life long after their chapter was over. You tolerated environments that disturbed